Hello. How's everyone doing today? Hey, Steph.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Pretty well. I am super excited to meet everyone. I've only been a part of these streams for the mini Dapp Hack as a judge. So today's my first dev hangout and actually spending time with you all. So I'm pretty excited. What about you, Steph?
Doing pretty good. And yeah, so I'm excited to. I've had a little peek of what you have in store, so I'm pretty excited, and I hope everyone else will find it really insightful.
I hope this is exciting as well too. I hope I don't fumble anything. Looking at a new language, learning it, and being able to explain it to other people is challenging, but I think we'll be able to get through it today. Great. So thanks for joining me, Steph. I'll be leading today's Dev Hangout. I'm going to be giving a presentation, going through some slides, and Steph will be hopping back in so that we can go over community board updates. We've been making some progress there, and there's some cool things for Steph to show you. So what I'd like to do now is to start sharing my screen, go into my presentation for our Dev Hangout for today, and then Steph, I'll reach back out to bring you back up on the stage. Does that sound good? All right, awesome. So let me start sharing my screen and we can get started with today's agenda. Okay, let me see if you can see this. You should be able to see this now. All right. So for anyone who is unfamiliar with me, seeing my face for the first time, it is great to meet you all. My name is Jay, and I'm a DevRel engineer over here at Midnight. My areas of interest are AI, gaming, tokenomics, DAOs, and art. I've helped people build applications across these different verticals and have built some myself. My approach to DevRel engineering is modular, community-centered, and business-minded. So as I'm creating tutorials, I'm creating them from the beginning, teaching you how to go through all the processes, but then making these little how-tos that are reusable, things like a wallet connect button, how to deploy a contract so that you can always revisit and learn how to deal with those. So I won't go into it here, but there's a preview I can share later of what I'm working on. Now, community centered, I love to personally reach out to the devs, get to know you all, know what your projects are. I still keep in touch with a lot of the projects that I help launch across different networks. So starting today, I'll be in the Dev Hangout channel on Discord. I'll be talking with different people there. But I want to emphasize that that's not the place where you can find help. If you are having trouble with your code, look at our Kappa.ai Discord channel. Post in there if you're not able to help find, if you're not able to find help there, you can post to our community board and we can address your tickets there. So going forward, I'll be looking at both the Dev Hangout and our community board and following up and responding to you all. And I have seen many of you actively participating, from Steph to John to Plexus, helping people out with the drop. So thank you all for being there, for being advocates of our community. And I hope to get to know you all and work with you all. And lastly, business minded. I know the problem within our industry is that we all love to tinker. We like to build cool things, but a lot of people don't build things with the intention of going to market, of building a business. So I think it's really cool. I tinker myself, but I would like for our community to get more focused on building businesses. It's great to come out of a hackathon with a project, but it's even better to come out of it with a business. So these are my areas of interest, the things I'm going to be looking out for, and my approach to DevRel and how I'll be engaging with the community. Now let's get into our dev hangout and our spotlight for today. So as I joined the team and I was looking through my options of what to build, different applications, I thought, hey, we've already covered fungible tokens. We have things on cryptocurrencies. We gave a demo with Open Zeppelin. So let's talk about spotlighting non-fungible tokens. Those are the kind of two types of tokens in my mind that are the most important on blockchains. So as we go over this, we'll cover what is a non-fungible token, just a high-level overview, some NFT resources, our smart contract library that I want to introduce the community to, an application called Midnight Kitties, some thoughts I have for devs, our community board updates with Stev, and then some general updates I'll have at the end. So let's hop into it. Non-fungible tokens. If you're not familiar, a non-fungible token is a unique digital asset on a blockchain. So unlike a cryptocurrency where you can exchange one for another, and it doesn't necessarily matter which one you have, each one of these items are unique. So they may represent a piece of art. They may represent you owning a watch or a house. So these are unique items and they need their own programs for this. And now on Midnight, what makes this particularly interesting is that we don't necessarily have to publish all of the information associated with that NFT. So in typical NFTs, when you're minting it and you're, let's say, the artist, you would have to publish and make it known. Whereas on Midnight, you can actually hide who is publishing the NFTs. So if you're, let's say, an anonymous artist, someone like Banksy, and you don't want people to know your name or associate your wallet address or anything like that, you can hide that information and still mint NFTs and still get it out to people. So there's tons of different applications for Midnight NFTs. And as we discuss the technology, I'm excited to see what everyone builds with it. So that's non-fungible tokens. And as I joined the team and I said, all right, I'm going to start working on non-fungible tokens, I started to realize there's a lot that's already out there that you may not be aware of. So if you're joining our community for the first time and you're hearing this talk for the first time, you can go into our awesome dApps here, where we have a list of the different templates, smart contracts, even example applications that you can build and reference. Now, in that same repo, we also have OpenZeppelin smart contracts. If you're unfamiliar with OpenZeppelin, they've audited a ton of contracts. They've created standards. They're an amazing team. We went over the fungible token that they created, but if you go into their repo, go into their contracts here, and then go into source and go into their tokens, you can see that they've already provided us with three different compact contracts. The fungible token that we went over before, a multi-token contract that is similar to an 1155 on the EVM network. So when you want to have multiple unique items, whether that's like a sword or event passes, things of that nature. And then a non-fungible token, which is a singular unique item. So there's not any more replications of this kind of thing. There's just one, and that's it. So those are the resources we have available. But as I was talking to the team, I realized that there's people within our organization that are working on repos that they haven't made public. So what I wanted to do first is gather all that information and first make that accessible. And I found this Midnight Contracts library by one of our solutions engineers who recently joined. His name is Ricardo, and I'll bring him on to another Dev Hangout because he's done amazing work. I love his repo, and we'll go over that today. So first, before we actually look at the code, let's cover some fundamentals, some things I needed to learn and some things you'll need to learn. When you're looking at your code, you're going to frequently see these four things. So the ledger, which is the data that's going actually on chain, that's being published and accessible to everyone on chain. The witness, which is taking some of your private information, running some computation. The circuit, which updates and checks the ledger. And then disclose, which reveals facts about the information without revealing the underlying impact. Now, those are the fundamentals. And let's get into the actual smart contract library. So we'll share a few of these links afterwards. But this is the main repo that we'll be looking at for today. So it's a library with a few different contracts, mostly focused around NFTs. The main thing to look at here is this library architecture, because what he's done is created modules for a baseline NFT and a zkNFT. So whenever you're creating NFTs, there's frequently certain methods that you would want to use, something like a balance of, or maybe you would want to mint the NFT. So what he's done is created all those base circuits that you would need for any standard NFT interaction, made them accessible as modules that you can pull into your projects, and then build on top of those modules by exporting some of those functions. If you want to import to this to your project, you could always reference it here. And there's installation steps that you can follow, compact compile path setups. But let's skip to the basic usage. So as I mentioned, this is pulling in the modules here. And then this is the example of building on top of that module where you're using the balance of calls, owner of, and the other ones that he's exposed here. These are just examples though. And if you want to see the total suite of available options, you can go into this section here, where you can see the different calls we have for our NFT and our NFT ZK. These are fairly the same across the board, and you'll notice it once I actually go through the code. The only thing is that within the NFT ZK, we're hiding some information. So now once you go into this repo, you can see these examples here, and you can install it. But let's actually look at the ZK example. So let's go into contracts. Go to tokens. You'll notice when you're going through the repo, there's these two separate sections, one for NFT, one for NFT ZK. You go into NFT ZK, he has well documented every single thing here. So you can look at this repo, say, all right, we have all these awesome things. Like I can do private minting, I can do private ownership, or maybe people are transferring assets and they don't want to show what are the assets that they're transferring. So that can be in private as well. So if you're not sure where to start and you want to get an idea, take a look at this README, look at the different examples we have available, and get an idea of what's possible there. Now you have two options. You can just use the modules for your own purposes, build on top of them, or you can take a look at the underlying code, which is what I've done and suggest to others, to understand how this all works, appreciate what zkNFTs are, and then start building your own custom contracts. So this is what we have for the NFT ZK, but I've already downloaded this and I ran it on my computer. So let's look at the code here. So as I mentioned, when you're looking through the repo, you can go through the contracts. This is the same folders that we were just looking at. We have our ZK NFT. And you'll notice there's the modules one here, which is all of your baseline circuits. And then you have something built on top of it, which in this case, I think he's built like authorization contracts. So to give people the authority to do certain things. But for the most part, let's focus on this ZK NFT. There's a lot to cover, so I'm only going to go over one read and one write, showcase what I've learned about this, so that you can get a better idea of how this all works. So this is our ZK NFT. Oh, I see. Stephanie, yeah, I'll slow down a bit. So here, the first thing we have to do is import our compact standard library. This is standard whenever you're writing contracts. Now, the next four things are what are going to be published to our ledger. This is going to be public information. Now, what I want to highlight here is that in a ZK NFT, we're not actually passing our publicly key in this mapping. So we're identifying who's the token owner by mapping the IDs over to the fields, but we're not actually identifying who is the public owner. And if you want to take a look at how this looks, you can look at our NFT.compact and see, all right, if we wanted to publish that data, we would do a mapping like this, where we just grab their public key, publish that, and now people can see that on chain. But in the event where the owner doesn't want to share that they own this NFT, we would want to take in a field that represents their actual public key. And we'll go through the details of how that works in a bit. But what you need to identify here is that we are mapping the token owners to the token IDs, who is able to move the tokens, the amount of tokens that the account owns, and then this operator approvals section. So this gets really interesting because you would want to use something like this in the event of a marketplace. So I may have an NFT, but I may want to put it up for auction, and then someone purchases that NFT. I want that to settle, but I might not be watching my screen all the time to do that approval. So instead, I would want to approve of the marketplace to actually do these kind of transactions. And then once it's settled, they'll process it. So here's how you can give other people approvals to transfer that token. Now, if you're looking at ZK contracts, you'll notice that they have some witnesses. And now the witness is a function that will run, but it's not actually going to reveal the local data. So let's look at our witness file. Whenever you're constructing it, you're going to want to import your contract, ledger, and this witness context is super important. This is going to allow your program to take a snapshot of the current state of the ledger and your private data. All right, this is setting up a contract, and this is really the juicy stuff here, stuff that we need to know. So we're establishing our private state here, and we're saying that it's going to be read-only and has properties of local state and secret state. Now, as I've become familiar with the repo, I realize that the reason why we're doing this is because whenever we have to prove that, let's say, I own the NFT and I want to verify information about my own NFT, we're going to have to pass along this local secret that I only have. Now, if I want to share information about this NFT with other people, we're going to have to pass along the shared secret, which is going to be hashed with that other person's public key. And I'll show you that in a bit. But this is essentially establishing our private state. This is creating it and returning it. And now here are our witness. So here we're taking our local state. We are having some sort of private state. We know that it's going to be in the type of this NFT ZK private state. So it's going to have these properties of local secrets and shared secret. And here we're checking, okay, does this state have a local secret? If it does, then we want to return the private states and the secret. Now, where this gets interesting is that when I was trying to understand how this all works, I thought, hey, it's going to return this, so maybe this will be public. But what you realize is that this returns it to a circuit that doesn't reveal the information. But essentially what you need to know is that if you are checking, if the user is checking for their own information, they would need a local secret. If they're checking for someone else's information, an NFT that's they have been given access to that they can verify, they can see this get shared secret. So let's go back to our NFT compact contract. Um, so we have our secrets here. Now let's get into our calls. So when I was thinking about this, I was like, hey, I can check the balance of, but if I, let's say, have an NFT now, well, if I don't have the NFT, there won't be a balance, right? So I thought it would be more interesting to go over the mint section first. So when you're minting an NFT, this is the circuits that we've created. So when you mint, we're taking a public key and the token ID. And this is where the ZK stuff gets interesting. So we're saying, okay, the person who is triggering this circuit, we want to see what their private key is, and we're going to assign it to sender public key. Now in this section, we want to say, all right, is the ID the sender public key, right? If they've provided it, then we want to go to this section here where we're taking their local secret. So as I mentioned, this is being returned from the witness, right? And then it's hashing it with the public key that we're grabbing here, which is the person who's initiating the circuit. And we're hashing those two things to create a sender hash key. And what we want to do is we want to map this into the token's own list, right? To say, hey, they've just minted an NFT. Now they own it. We need to document that. So we look at this add token to circuit here, which will bring us down to these helper functions, right? And here we're taking in a field and we're taking in a token ID. You'll often see these kind of texts where you want to check if the token exists or if the value is default. Those are common assertions that you'll see throughout the script. So like I mentioned here, we're checking for a default to see if it's empty, and we're checking if it exists. There's another helper function here, but you can take a look at that. Ultimately, once we pass those assertions, we want to say, okay, let's take a look at that token owner mapping, and we want to insert the token ID and then that hash, right? So we're not revealing the person's public key. We're revealing a hash of their public key that's made with a local secret. So this is where we can publish things onto the ledger, but not actually reveal the person's identity or accounts associated with it. Okay, now we have this section here. So initialize a counter if it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, we have to count how many tokens that they actually own, right? And we have to update this other mapping to say, all right, we have to insert their hash key and that they own one. So if they own more of these mints, then that counter will go up and we know they own 3, 4, 5 NFTs or whatever it may be. And here we're just checking, well, we're just incrementing the actual tokens that they own. So that's our first circuit. Let's go back to our mint, right? So we checked the local secrets. We were able to make a hash. We sent that over. We added it to the mapping. And that's how we do it if it's our own account. Now, if it's someone else's account, we would want to get a shared secret that they provided to us, right? So we're taking our shared secret, and then we're taking that person's public key, right? And then we're hashing those two things. And so we know that it's a hash key of the person we're going to send the asset to once they mint. And then we follow the same process, right? We have to add them to the mapping that's identifying the token owners. So we call the same function, we pass in the two hash key and the token ID. So that's essentially how you read and write using zk information. And I want to highlight again, the easiest thing for you to like look through here and get an idea of how this works is the difference between this kind of call here, where you're documenting, let's say, a field on the ledger versus this kind of call where you're publishing the actual public key of the user. So look back and forth between these two repos and docs to appreciate what the differences are, to understand how the witnesses work and how local data is used and stored. After going through this, I have a lot more context on the local secrets and the shared secrets. So I feel like I have to make more content on that, just this concept in general, and I'll work on that over the next coming weeks. So that is the module library. Let me go back to my presentation. And I want to introduce to you Midnight Kitties. So Midnight Kitties was built on top of the module, but it's mostly using the standard NFT. So I hope that you see this, you get some ideas of inspiration, and you use our zkNFTs to build out cooler, more interesting games or NFTs that utilize ZK technology. So if you want to take a look at this repo, we'll share this as well afterwards. You can take a look at it here, download it, and I've already done that on my computer. So let's actually just run it. When you're running it for the first time, you're going to need to deploy your own smart contract for the crypto kitties, well, for the midnight kitties. Then you can generate new kitties, you can breed them. There's a couple of cool features in here, and I'll go into the options we have. So let me open this up. And let me see, I'm taking a look at my left. I see some questions. I see Steph. I need to watch this again in slow mo. Yes, this is also why I provide step-by-step tutorials and instructions on a lot of my work, because I realize sometimes I do go a bit too fast. So if I lose you, I hope to provide documentation going forward where you can follow step by step. Even if you've missed me, you'll be able to continue. So this is my Midnight Kitties view, and I want to upload the existing contract. You can create a new one in your CLI. It has the instructions there. But if I upload the contract here, you can see here are my Midnight Kitties. And this is kind of what I was testing the past couple of days to make sure it works. You can see it has like a gender, it has the generations, some information about its DNA. This was actually bred with these two kitties, but if you want, you can just create a new kitty and it'll generate it. You sign the transaction, sign in. And within a couple seconds, it should generate a new kitty. But the more important thing here is to test it to understand the functionality. So when you're minting, go into the actual repo, see where the mint function is, understand what's happening here. And the other functions I want to highlight that were built in are like some of the transfers, selling the NFT, things of that nature. And I see another question come up. Will this be easy for someone who has no knowledge or skills in coding? I am not a dev. I have some tips for non-devs, for devs at the ending. But my hope is that when I create tutorials, these kind of walkthroughs in a more formal setting, I will provide documents so that if you've never seen a wallet, I'll help you create your first wallet. And by the end of it, I hope that we can deploy something together. So I've created a new kitty. That's this kitty here. It's, yeah, completely random generated, but it's kind of funny looking. But more importantly, let's go into this manage kitty. So if you go into manage, you can paste in someone else's wallet and then transfer the asset. So you're going to want to look into those transfer functions, right? To understand how that works. What is the information you need? We have selling, so you can set a price for the assets, offers, people can place bids on it. And this is where you would want to get into that operator approval kind of circuits, because you want to give the authority to this marketplace to be able to settle these transactions. And then in the case of breeding, this is just referencing the token IDs. So you can look out for that too when you're looking through the code. Right now it's saying like, this is kitty number 6. If I want to breed with another kitty, all I do is reference its ID, press breed, and then it'll start breeding the actual kitty. I've already done that, so I'm not going to kind of torture you a bit more with this, but it's an awesome repo. It gives you an idea of a concept of NFTs, how to breed them, some mechanisms, some transfers, some purchases that you can even take a look at. So I highly encourage you to take a look at this first and then think, okay, how can I create something similar that uses ZK technologies? Because that's ultimately what we're here for. So that is Midnight Kitties. I'll share the repo after, and I hope you all find it interesting. So let's get back to my presentation and building together. So someone mentioned, will it be easy to follow along? So this is the tips I have just off of the top of my head, but it'll get better over time. So for smart contract devs, of course, master the fundamentals so you know how to actually write these smart contracts, understand witnesses, disclose how this information is passed back and forth, what's published on chain, things of that nature. And consider what is the unique ZK offering. Because you can build anything in public, but what can you build in private? So this is the interesting part. Think about these ideas because this is the competitive advantage of building on our network. Now for front-end devs, there's a lot of times I see you enter into hackathons and you don't necessarily focus on the contracts, which is not a problem. But what I would suggest is partnering with people who are extremely interested in building contracts, who have that expertise, but maybe don't have the expertise of building front ends. So I want to make more opportunities for us to collaborate, for you to identify the people within our community that can help you. But if you don't have a partner, then reuse our existing contracts, build on top of that. The contracts work, they're tested if they're on awesome dApps. So take a look at that and build on top of it. And then for vibe coders, people who aren't coders at all, I vibe code from time to time. I love using Claude, MCP servers. I've made a ton of applications using vibe coding. So for you, I suggest start off with one of those smart contract repos and then talk to your MCP server or your Claude, whatever your LLM is, tell it what you want to build for the front end, and realize you're not going to touch the smart contracts. You're just going to build the interface to interact with those smart contracts. But ultimately, what I wanted to get at here is that we all have different areas of expertise, and there's an opportunity for everyone to collaborate. So if you're not sure, reach out to me. I'll give you some ideas, maybe even connect you to teams that you can start working with. And with that said, I want to hop into our community board review with Steph. He's been working on a ton of cool things, so I want to invite him back onto the stage so that he could share the updates for our community board.
Hello. That was super cool, Jay. Definitely everybody check out Midnight Kitties. It's like it brings back some memories. Cool. So I'm sharing my screen right now. I'll see if it's comes up. Just make sure tabs are working. Looks like it. All right, cool. So last week we tried that voting automation that failed live, which is fine. There's actually an issue with the GitHub access token was missing a few permissions, but now it should be working. So we're going to try this again. So some of the automation we're trying to test there is we want to have a way of aggregating popular issues. So in GitHub issues, there's not really much of a voting mechanism. Now GitHub Discussions kind of has a voting mechanism, but GitHub Discussions is kind of more of a forum. But and we want these issues to be actionable tickets. So, or actionable issues, whichever way you want to call it. So we're going to see if this works live. So I'm going to go into community board. Oh, you can't actually see my bookmarks in the live thing. That's fine. So let's go to Community Hub and issues. And there's this particular content that I'm working on. You guys can even go in the Google Doc and comment if you want to. For example, I created this issue, which I'm currently working on, but basically we're replacing the entire quick start. And this is also a lot of feedback from the Buenos Aires hack. So each of these items is kind of, we've had sit downs with developers in Buenos Aires to talk about. And I'm sorry if my voice is a little shoddy. I'm recovering from a cold. But this issue I'm particularly working on is, we want people to install the entire compact tool chain. So whether it doesn't matter if you're an end user or developer, you get set up with the entire tool chain and go into creating a Midnight application. This would be similar to the Hello World demonstration I did two Fireside hangs ago, I believe. And then also, so once we set up that Hello World app, okay, well, let's deploy the app. And this is not by any isolated example. It's just doing it from scratch. And then we're going to, all right, well, let's interact with the Dapp. So let's call the function the Dapp and see what we can find on an Explorer and interact with it. And then let's slap a little front end on it. And then these are kind of like these are almost like the components of creating a Dapp. So, and for example, in Buenos Aires, people were asking, well, how do you deploy? Well, it's like, okay, well, here's how you deploy it in the counter. You can get that code, put it in your project, etc., and deploy. But it's not really straightforward. So that's why we'd like to do this, because a lot of people ask, but okay, well, I have my app, I deployed it. How do I interact with it? Or I wrote my app, it's all custom, but I just want to deploy it and interact with the address. It's like, okay, we need onboarding components of this. And when it comes to future hackathons as well, hopefully if we have like a good getting started, it helps the onboarding much faster, especially when it comes to shorter hackathons or longer hackathons. For example, the one in Buenos Aires, the hackathon was about a day. People slept in the office and everything over in the IO office, which was hosting the hackathon. But if you sleep, you take potty breaks, etc. It's more of like a 16-hour hackathon. There's a lot of streamlining we can do in onboarding. That's why I created this issue in the community hub, because this is particular content I want to work on in the open. So if anyone wants to interact with it, you can comment, go on my Google Doc, and whatever. I'm currently writing in a Google Doc just because it's a little easier to collaborate in there. But going back to community board automation, something we wanted to do is aggregate popularity of an issue. And it probably get more complex over time. But for example, if I were to emoji react here, I give a thumbs up or alternatively a thumbs down. But let's say there's issues that a lot of people like. And this is something that we even considered, like, hey, maybe we should have this in all of the open source repos so that we can highlight hot issues. So when people thumbs up here, I have a GitHub action. It's currently manual for testing purposes, but we can have it run like daily, hourly. That's to be decided. But if I go to Community Hub, let's go to actions and let's go to highlighting popular issues. You can see I've done a bunch of testing. We're going to just manually trigger this action to highlight that issue. So this is going to go through all the Community Hub issues, and it's going to apply a hot label based on emoji reactions based on a threshold. So if I go to, sorry, my voice is a little shot. If I go to issues, I now see this getting started section issue now has a hot label for it. So now the threshold I made is 0. Obviously, it can be a lot. It should be a lot more and at scale, but I just have it at 0 just so I can demonstrate it for you here right now. So that automation works. So hopefully I retributed myself from last week. And now if we go to the community, and what's cool about this is like if we go to the community board, I'm going to go in the grab and go board because the getting started section is currently in progress. But this getting started section, usually it puts the labels here. I think there's a way I can make it show the labels there, but I see the getting started issue here. That's in, I've grabbed that and I'm going with it. And the cool thing here is I can, if any of you use Jira or other like project management apps and stuff, what's cool here is I can now filter via label. So I can say, okay, there's a bunch of issues here. What are the popular ones? What's hot? And I can see the getting started section is in there. So this just helps us identify what are hot issues, and so that's actually working now. There's going to be some announcements about the community board, maybe some training sessions too for the community if they want to, because I know a lot of people have a lot of ideas. But if you do have an issue, if you create an issue on here, tag us in Discord or even open up a midnight forum on there. Because if you create an issue or an idea and you just want to discuss it, or something you're working on, you can have the issue in here and we can all collaborate on it together as well. And even you could come up here on the restream and we could talk about it live and invite people for comment and everything else. It's all about doing this in the open. That's the open source way, I guess. But let me go to the community hub repo here. But yeah, so if you don't know how to create an issue, all you have to do is go to Community Hub, and you can go to the Issues tab, or also you create an issue. There's some buttons here where you can report a bug, request a feature, suggest content, and propose a DApp. And while this is in the Community Hub, some of you who have not heard about this this initiative before, but there's a lot of features, Dapp ideas, etc. And not all of them have a repository. Um, like if you have a bug for like midnight docs, you can create an issue on that, which we're going to aggregate into community board as well too. But this allows a place to have like open issues for things. So, for example, I want to suggest content. Okay, well, it goes to a blank issue, but I have to modify it slightly where it's going to go to the proper issue. I push those buttons just before here, just so I can make it look pretty. But it would go to the content proposal issue, and you can start documenting what your content proposal is. Um, and yeah, so that's where community board is right now. So stay tuned for some announcements and some basic instructions to for this stuff. And that's all I kind of got for you guys here. Otherwise, I'm excited about the getting started. I mean, what Jay showed, the Midnight Kitties, is pretty sick as well. And there's a lot of stuff coming as far as all-encompassing network events in the future, which hopefully we can announce very soon. And yeah, thank you.
Well, so thanks for that, Steph. I am super excited about this because we're always talking about what Dapp ideas or examples do people need to see. So this is your opportunity to surface to us. I think the problem now today is not like how to create something, it's what should we be creating? And we have lists. I mean, we have files of different applications, ideas that people want to see happen, but we don't necessarily know what the community wants. We're driving a lot of this. We're doing it from conversations. But if there's an application or something you want to see, like and how to on how to connect your wallet or how to on how to process a specific transaction, make a ticket for it. Let us know because then that's the easiest way for us to pick it up, make content around it, or maybe even someone from the community might get ahead of us and make that content as well. So as we're bringing this out, I think it'll be cool opportunities for us to collaborate. I'm personally excited about it to see what everyone is talking about. So thanks for that, Steph.
Yeah, and we even have partners with engineers that are like, oh yeah, I want to build something. What should I build? I'm like, oh, go take an issue from the community board. So, and as partners scale and start contributing, that the your issue, either you can work on it yourself, we could work on it, or we have partners that are also like, hey, what can I build? What are people interested in? Okay, well, these are issues that people have created, and they can make more of a constituency led decision.
Yeah, exactly. And you also mentioned of potentially bringing up people to the restream, and we had these internal discussions where we move tickets over to like to discuss, but maybe we can have those discussions in public, right? Like you want this particular feature, these are the limitations we're running into, or some considerations, and we can talk about this in public with the people requesting these features or bringing up these issues. So it's a cool opportunity to collaborate. Cool. So with that, I want to move into our updates for today, our general updates, and then I'll wrap it up. So thanks for joining, Steph. I'll take a look at the community board, share it with others, and I will see you in a bit. So for now, I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get back to the presentation. Should be able to see my screen here. Awesome. So what's next? We went over NFTs, zkNFTs, and what can you do? So first today, if you have ideas on your mind, you've been saying, hey, I want to see this application. I want to know how to do this particular thing. Start creating issues on our community board. If you don't know how to, reach out and we'll discuss that process as we roll it out ourselves. And then if you see something that someone else posts and it's interesting, vote on it. Show them some love. Let them know that there's other people in the community that are looking at their work as well and say, yes, I want to see that too. So become active, post on the community board, and vote on others. Now, as far as hackathons, we have the Dega AI hackathon that has kicked off actually this morning. I think I got a notification at like 3 a.m. or something like that it was kicking off. So join that if you haven't already. It's an AI for DAO Treasury Management hackathon. You can find that on our website. If you just go to our midnight hackathons, scroll to the bottom, you can always see the most current and up-to-date hackathons that you can participate in. And with that said, I want to say we've been discussing a ton of cool opportunities online. So if you haven't participated in hackathon, I highly suggest you do, because there's a lot of cool things that are on the horizon that are going to be announced. So that's all I have for today. I see some questions, mostly about the repos. So immediately after this, I will put a list of resources, like all the repos that I went over, so that you can see. I'll just post that in the Dev Hangout, so anyone who's listening here can hop over there, get those resources immediately. But later today, I will also make a pull request for our awesome dApps repos, so that we can have those repos accessible to everyone else as well. So I want to thank you all for joining. My name is Jay, and I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you in the Dev Hangout.